So what we're going to do today with our demonstration is I'm going to show you how to use TradeLog to prepare trader tax reporting. Specifically, this is for cash basis accounting. This is not a mark-to-market election. We may do a demonstration in a few weeks on that for those who are electing mark-to-market. But we're going to prepare a Form 8949 that we can file with the IRS. We're going to also have some Section 1256 contracts. So I'm going to show you how those get reported. More and more investors and traders have Section 1256 contracts involved, and so we'll show that. In this particular example, this is a real life trader, and they actually use Tastyworks as their broker through 2020, and then in 2021 they switched over to a TD Ameritrade account. And so I'm also going to show you how we would account for that in TradeLog. It was a fairly easy change, but that affects some of you as well. Maybe if you changed brokers or if you added a broker, we'll show you a little bit how to do that and how to wrap up some of the reports in TradeLog for end year. And I'm going to tell you, this isn't like the most perfect demonstration. Sometimes we do demonstrations and everything looks perfect, but we tried to get like a real life scenario because sometimes when you're using TradeLog, especially when you're dealing with trader taxes, it's complicated and there's little things that come up, hiccups or little errors or something that has to be accounted for. And so we have some common ones that are actually in this particular trader's example that can help you to see what you may have pop up and how to handle it. But most importantly, I want to stress that the fact that with TradeLog, when you purchase a TradeLog subscription, you're not just getting a subscription to the software, but also to our support resources. And so we don't want you to get frustrated. Dealing with trader taxes is not the easiest thing. TradeLog is not the easiest, most intuitive application. We know that. It does some complex things, but don't get frustrated. We have our support here for you. The best way to do that, I'll show you in the software, is using the Get Support button. So I'm going to show you that later, how you can use that. But also we have our support center, which you can get to at support.tradelogsoftware.com. So I'm going to open that up here. So here on our support center, you can get to all of our support resources, our guides on how TradeLog works, the guide for using TradeLog each year we're going to talk about, as well as our specific broker support and more resources. And you can submit support requests from here as well. So we encourage you to take advantage of this. Now, if you're new to TradeLog, which most of you who are signed up for this either got the TradeLog free trial or you've just recently purchased TradeLog, it's very important that you check out this section, the guide to using TradeLog each year on our support center. So this guide is 8 steps that have been tried and true with TradeLog. They take you from the very first part of creating a new file all the way to filing your tax reporting. Now, I know none of us like reading instructions, but we've tried to detail step by step how to go through each year using TradeLog for preparing your tax reporting. I'm going to demonstrate all of these steps today. We're not going to read through them, but that information is there to help you and to guide you. And with most of those steps, we even have links to any videos and tutorials that we have as well. Now, when you run TradeLog on your computer, you can get to this same quick start guide. When you first open TradeLog, you see under user guides, there's a link to quick start guide. And if I click on that, it'll open up that guide directly. So it's really easy to find. And you'll also find some other links in the software as well, which I'll talk about later. So let's just jump right in and get started using TradeLog. Now, the first thing that we want to do when we're using TradeLog for our tax reporting purposes, I find it best to go ahead and gather some of your information that you're going to need. Now, you can wait as you go along to each step. You can gather some of that information. Of course, for demonstration purposes, I'm planning to get all of this done within the hour by 5 o'clock. And so I need to get all of my information together. So I've gone ahead and downloaded some key information that I'm going to need from my brokers. I have my 1099B that Tastyworks provided. I also have my December statement for 2019 and my December statement for 2020. Those are 2 important broker statements. Now, you might need to refer to some of your other statements sometimes as well, but those two statements have important information that I'm going to show you how we're going to use. And then I also went ahead and downloaded the CSV file with the trade history for all of 2019 and all of 2020 with Tastyworks. And then, like I mentioned, for this trader, they actually switched in January 1, they started using TD Ameritrade. So I also need the January 2021 trade history for wash sale purposes. So I went ahead and downloaded that information. Now, what do you need to download? How do you get that broker information? That's a big question that we get asked a lot of times from users. Well, again, if you go to our TradeLog Support Center, you can go to the section Broker Import Support. And if you click on that section, we have all the brokers that we support listed here in alphabetical order. So if I go down to Tastyworks, here it gives me instructions for how to import from a CSV file. So it tells me what I need to do, and it even has a link to Tastyworks where they put together instructions on how to get the data that you'll need for TradeLog. Each broker is a little bit different in what they provide. Some of our brokers, we have what we call Broker Connect, which will allow you to put in some account credentials and TradeLog can retrieve that information directly. I'm using the CSV file since I'm doing the whole year at once. I find it just kind of easy because I prepared and pulled that information. Now, when you install TradeLog on your computer, you're going to, it usually puts it in a default directory where you're going to install it. I like to set up my own folder for my TradeLog files. I have OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive works really good with Windows for those of you who are using it. And so I created a TradeLog folder in my OneDrive account. And what's great about that is if you do have multiple computers, you can be able to easily get to your files on multiple devices. It's also nice because for me, it keeps my information backed up in the cloud. So if my hard drive crashes or something, I don't lose it. So I have a TradeLog folder here, and TradeLog sets up these 4 folders by default: backups, import, reports, and an undo folder. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to put this information that I need. I'm going to put it here in my TradeLog folder, and that way it's ready to go. And I'm going to move those CSV files up here to the import folder, and that's going to get me prepped. So they've been stored away. I'm actually going to create another folder for myself. This is just best practice I find. And I put broker reports, and I'm going to put all the reports from my broker there. So now I've got some nice clean files. I know where to get to all of my information, and we're ready to get started with TradeLog. So now I run TradeLog, and I'm going to start by going to the option Create a New File. So if this is your first time using TradeLog, you're going to need to create a new file. Now, if you did use TradeLog for 2019, then the process is a little bit different because you should go to open an existing file and you need to find the 2020 file that was already created. But like I said, our focus today is for first-time users. So I'm going to create a tax file. The tax year defaults to 2020. That's correct. And I need to put in my taxpayer name. Now, it's important that you put the name that is going to show on your tax reports. So if you're using TradeLog for an entity like an LLC or something that you've set up, or for a trust account, you need to put the taxpayer name just like you want it to show on the report. I'm going to put here just Jason demonstration, because that's what this is my demonstration as the taxpayer name. And that's what's going to show up on my reports. You can also choose to password protect your file. If you worry about someone getting on your computer and looking at your data or something, you can do that. And you can also choose to put your social security number in if you wish. I'm not going to put one in on this, but if you do put your social security number in, it's encrypted there, and then it will print that on your tax reports. I need to choose the type of taxpayer. This is a personal account. It's not a corporate or an LLC or anything like that. So now I'm ready to create the file. So I click OK. Now it's going to make me confirm that that is the name I want to show on my tax return. And it's letting me know that I don't have a social security number. That's okay. So now we get to the broker setup. So I'm going to put in the broker information. And as I mentioned, the broker for this demonstration is Tastyworks. So I choose Tastyworks. I don't need to worry about these other settings. You don't need to change those unless there's a specific situation and a member of our support team might tell you, to turn one of those settings on. So we're just going to choose Tastyworks. Under the account name, it defaulted Tastyworks. If I want to, I can add something else like an account identifier, especially if you have multiple accounts with the same broker. You might want to put like the account number or the last 4 digits, something so that you know which account this is. And then I need to identify the type of account. This is a cash basis account, normal tax reporting. I have not elected Section 475F, which is trader tax status and using mark-to-market accounting. So I'm going to keep it on regular cash basis. You can also track an IRA account in TradeLog. If you have an IRA, you can use that for performance, and also TradeLog will adjust any wash sales across an IRA account, which the IRS does require and can be kind of nasty. But we're going to just move along now with that on cash basis. And now we get to our first step. I'm going to put this in full screen here. So by default, TradeLog is going to go to the baseline positions wizard. This is part of step 2 of our 8-step guide, is entering baseline positions. What is a baseline position? Well, some people may call it open positions or holdings, but the key is TradeLog needs to know at the start of, in this case, 2020, as of January 1, 2020, what did you have for holdings or positions that were open from 2019? So if you were started trading in 2019, TradeLog needs to know what exactly was open going into 2020. That gives us a baseline, which we're then able to add all the rest of your 2020 trade history and onward. Now, this process can sometimes be a little tricky. It usually requires the most manual entry of any step in using TradeLog. But if you do it right the first time, you never have to worry about entering baseline positions again, because in the future years, TradeLog is going to keep track of all that information. Now, the good news is, if you started trading in 2020, you didn't trade at all in 2019, but you opened your account and started trading in 2020, then you don't have to put anything in because you don't have any baseline positions. So that makes it a little bit easier as well. How do we determine if we have baseline positions? Well, the wizard that we have helps guide you through the steps. You can also choose to manually enter baseline positions. We give instructions for how to do that, but I am going to use the wizard, and it explains a little bit here what I just said to you, but it says that we're going to need our December 2019 statement for this brokerage account. So remember, that was one of the statements I mentioned we need to have. So I do have that ready. So I'm going to click Begin Baseline Wizard. So the first thing it says I need to do is check for any holdings as of December 31st, 2019. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my broker statement. And let me make this a little bit bigger for you. So each broker is a little bit different. Most of them, usually one of the first things they put on the December statement is the list of your holdings, your open positions, your portfolio, whatever they want to describe it. Tastyworks calls it the portfolio summary. So here it's giving a list of what I held as of the end of December 2019. So we see it's got 4 positions that are listed here. So I'm going to need to account for these. So if I switch back over to TradeLog, it says to check if I have holdings and then choose the option. Does my statement list positions or it does not? Yes, it does. So we're going to go to step 2. So now what I need to do is I need to enter the holdings as of December 31st, 2019. So I need to enter this information here. I have 4 positions that are here. So I have Madrigal Pharmaceuticals. I have 200 shares. I also have 2 contracts for a call on Madrigal. It's a -2 quantity. So this is a short position. Then there's also 2 put contracts that I have positions open. But one thing that I'm going to highlight here is that these are for December 31st, 2019 expiration. So the broker's showing these as open, but technically they expired on December 31st, which was the last day of the statement. So what happens is the broker's gonna, settle it out. They're gonna show it as settled in January. But as far as TradeLog is concerned, that position, it expired on December 31st and was closed out on that date. So for this particular situation, I don't need to enter or worry about those two positions because I know that they're going to end up expiring in 2019 and they don't affect my 2020. So I'm not going to have to worry about entering those. But let's go ahead and put these other positions in. I'm going to move that to my other screen so that you can see me enter it into TradeLog. We're going to start by entering the stock position, and it is a long position for stock. The ticker is MDGL, and the number of shares is 200. So we're going to add that to the list. Next, I have the contract. So I'm going to put in the ticker is MDGL, and it's 2 contracts. Now these are short, and I need to change it from stock to option. So once you do that, you notice we are guiding you through with this wizard and kind of asking you to fill in all the information, and then we'll create the necessary entry into TradeLog. So the multiplier is a normal option, 100. All I really need to worry about here is the expiration date, which is January 17th. And the strike price is 100. And it's a call. So once I have that, I can add it to the list. And now I have the 2 positions that I was concerned about on my statement. So now I'm going to go down and click the next button. And it's listed those 2 positions. But now TradeLog wants to account for trades pending settlement. So you can do this manually sometimes by going through your broker statement and looking if there's any trades that are pending settlement as of the end of the statement and that might not have been listed with the holdings. But the wizard here can also help speed up that process if you have your trade history. So I do have my 2019 trade history that I was able to get from Tastyworks. So what I'm going to do is go to the Tastyworks import button, and I'm going to select that history. Notice TradeLog by default goes to that import folder where I saved my import history. So I click open. And now what it did is it went ahead and checked for any trades pending settlement. And it pulled up 2 trades that were pending settlement. And I can go ahead and look at these on my statement just to show you. If I search for the word pending, it's usually the easiest way. Here are trades pending settlement that happened there at the end of the year. So these are the trades that the TradeLog found that are technically open. However, you notice again, these are December 31st options. So 2019 was kind of weird since, the 31st was an expiration date for options. This came up. And so I know that these expired. So they expired in 2019. So what I'm going to actually do is just go ahead and delete these off of this because I don't need to add those in. But now I do know TradeLog checked for me and entered those. So we're good to go with our next step. So now what TradeLog needs to do is, using that same trade history, it's going to search to find for the shares that I have, as well as these contracts that I have open. When did I open the position and what was the price? And it may not be one position, it might be a number of positions. So I'm going to click the find button and let's see what TradeLog finds. Here we go. So it found, I actually had 4 different trades for the shares of MDGL. So it's got the price and the correct amounts and the date each of those was opened. And then it has the 2 trades where I opened the contract, the call position. So I can click OK to save that data. And now I finished step 2. I've got my baseline positions. TradeLog knows what I have open as of the end of 2019, and I'm ready to import my trades for 2020. So that's our next step. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the Tastyworks import button on the toolbar. And I'm now going to import my 2020 trade history. So I choose that 2020 CSV and I click open. Tastyworks gives me the whole year, which is nice. Now, some brokers with the CSV, you may have to download like in quarters. Some of them have limits. And like I mentioned, some of our brokers, you're able to import automatically with Broker Connect. But even that, it just depends on the amount of trades and the particular broker. You may be able to do the whole year at once. You may have to do a month at a time. It just depends on the broker. So TradeLog imported 2,161 records. It also accounted for, there were some canceled, corrected trades in trade history. So that's all been accounted for. So now I can click yes. It asks about changing stock descriptions to ticker symbols. I'm going to click yes, see if that comes up with anything. No, there's nothing that needed to be changed here. So there we go. So now we have an error, a negative shares error. And sometimes new users of TradeLog, they have this come up and they go, oh no, everything's broken, and they panic. It's not uncommon to get maybe a negative share error. What happens with the negative share error is that means that in TradeLog, we imported trades that are closing more shares or contracts than you have open, which would be a negative share situation. And you can't do that. You can't close something you don't have open. So it needs a little attention. There's different reasons this may happen. A lot of times it may be just something in the broker's trade history. They may have something out of order. Something could be missing. The broker may be missing a particular trade. There might have been something like a spinoff or a stock split that you need to account for. So we isolate all the trades that have negative shares so that you know these need your attention. So I'm looking at this list, and I'm going to just start at the top with AYX. Why does it have negative shares? Now, one of the little tricks in TradeLog, if you double click on this trade, it will isolate just those records. So now I can see this particular trade for AYX, and I notice I have a close position, a close long. So I sold shares before I bought the shares. And the reason why, you notice the time and the date, they're on the same date, but the broker put a 0 timestamp in the trade history for the closing leg. So TradeLog, 0 is the start. So TradeLog is putting that before the open position. So as I look at this list, I can see there's a number of trades that seems to be the problem. They put a 0 timestamp instead of whatever the actual time was. Now, sometimes this may happen if there was some sort of automated function, or maybe there was some sort of correction they did, and basically the broker ended up clearing out the timestamp, and TradeLog doesn't know what it is. So the data reported as 0. So there it is. So what we can do with these is a lot of times we can just change them and look at our trade history and see what actually happened. With many of these, I know because I've already looked, instead of a 0, I could put 4 p.m. or 1600 hours at the end of the day when some of these things happened, and that will resolve the problem. So I'm actually going to do that for all of these stock positions. What I'm going to do is select this record, and I can right click and I can choose edit records, or I can hit F2 on my keyboard, and I'll just put in 1600 there. Let's put 1600 here. I'm in edit mode still, so I can just click on the individual trade record and make those changes. Now I'm skipping the options for now, and there's a reason why. I'm going to come back to that. 1600 there. Let's get all these here. So now, let's see, what do we got going on here? So now we still have one of these positions for AYX that's coming up because I've missed it. So I'm going to change that one. Let's see if that fixes that. Okay, there we go. So now we just have the options to deal with. And one of the things as I look at some of these options, I'm going to focus, I'll go in on this Boeing one first. So this is a March 215 put. So my concern is, do I just change the time? Or could it be that if the broker lost the time, they may also not be reporting whether this is a short or long. And sometimes that can actually affect things with options because brokers get reporting those kind of funky on the 1099. So what I'm going to do, another thing you can do if you're not sure with a negative share error, is I'm going to open up, you can open up the statement, or in this case, I'm going to open up the 1099B for this account. And what I can do is actually search for this particular trade on the 1099. So I'm going to do that here and show you what the result is. So let's see what it comes up. Now this is a Boeing March 2013. Give it a minute while it searches. All right, and so it's a 215 put. So yeah, so what we have here is, you'll notice that this is listed as a buy to close on the 1099. So in other words, this was a short position, but Tastyworks reported it as a long position on the statement. So what needs to happen then is I need to actually change this from an open long, close long to the opposite. This particular buy should be a close short and the sell should be an open short. So the time won't really matter. So we have a lot of editing functions in TradeLog that can help when brokers have problems with their trade history like this. If I click these two records, one of the functions I can choose is toggle short long or long short. So if I choose that toggle and click yes, now if I go back to that, isolate that for you, you notice TradeLog just switched it. So now it's an open short and a closed short and everything matches up. We don't have a negative share error anymore. So the same is true if I was to look at all of these or most of these other positions. We're going to end up seeing the same thing. I'm going to come back to Google. Let's do this this Tesla one here, or I'll do these rain. And I like to use shortcuts. So on the keyboard, if I just hit Control A, that selects my records, and Control L, now I've toggled it. So we've accounted for that. See this one, I like to do the easy ones first, and then I'm going to come back because these Google, we got a bunch of weird things. So let's look at what's going on with this 1160 call, because there's a closed short and a closed long, and you notice the time isn't a problem. So this isn't quite the same problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search, and here we've got the 1160, and this is a sell to close. So it is a sell to close. So all that needs to happen here is I just need to toggle the first part to be an open long. So I'm going to just toggle only that part. And there it is. And then now if I go back to 1165, I can check, and the same is true for that. So I'll just toggle that. And now we have just one left. Now this Tesla call is a little bit different situation. If I isolate this, you notice we've got a sell for one contract, and then a few minutes later we have a buy for 20 contracts, an open long, and then we sell the 19. So what's happened here is really this 20 went from a short position to a long position, and the broker just got a little mixed up in how to report that. Some brokers allow you to go from short to long with one trade. So we can easily fix this in TradeLog. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to break up this buy for 20. I can right click on it and choose split record, and I'm going to split out one of those. So now the 19 are all matched up, but now I just need to match this this one here. And what I'm going to do is then toggle those two positions. So now you see we have the first contract, which was a short, and then we went long on the 19. And if I look that up on my broker statement, you're going to see that that's what the broker reported on the, well, this is on the 1099. So we have the one contract that's a buy to close, and we have the other 19, which was a sell to close. So it was a long position. So now we've accounted for that in TradeLog. And now when I click on the all trades button, there's no more negative share errors. So we've taken care of the negative share errors, and all of our trade history is imported and up to date. Sometimes a negative share error may indicate that there's a corporate action like a stock split or something like that that needs to be done. One of the things that we have on our support center that can help you out with this is, you'll notice here on the right side panel, we have some promoted articles, and we have corporate action history for 2020. So our support team is very thorough in trying to post all the corporate actions that we know of or that we find. So if you have a negative share on something, you can search through this and see, well, was there some sort of corporate action, a merger, spinoff, split, or something that happened on that particular ticker? And then we tell you what needs to be done with that particular corporate action. So that can help you out as well. So now we've completed step 3, which is importing our trade history. So now what we need to do is kind of verify our trade history. And at this point, I like to use the checklist feature in TradeLog. You notice on the toolbar, it has the checklist. So I have all of my 2020 trade history. Now, one side note, if I traded in the same account in 2021, I would need to import up to January 31st of 2021, because TradeLog needs that first month of the next year so that it can account for any wash sales that may have happened in the wash sale window. However, for this particular trader, they stopped in December 31st, and then they started using their TD Ameritrade account. So I'll show you that in a moment. We have all of the Tastyworks data imported that we need. So now what I'm going to do is click on the checklist. And these are 4 things that you need to check off. In fact, you won't be able to produce finalized tax reporting unless you've checked off these 4 things for each account. Now, sometimes they'll be checked off for you if they don't apply. But in this case, I do have options trades in here. And so you'll notice the first 2 things I need to take care of is expiring any options that are past their expiration. Now, we have a link that makes it real easy to do this quick. If I click the Expire Options button, what it's going to do is it's going to find all of the options that are still showing as open but are past their expiration. Why does this happen? Some brokers don't do anything with options expiration. They don't actually create a trade in the trade history. So there's nothing that TradeLog imports to close that. So TradeLog can just automate that for you with this step. So I want to go ahead and expire any options as of the last date that's already put in here. I click OK. Now it's created those close records. And now you'll see there's nothing open. All of my options were closed out with that expiration. So now I can go up to the checklist again and mark that complete. The next one is to exercise any options that need to be exercised or signed. So if an option was exercised or signed, there's some adjustments that need to be made for tax purposes. The option premium basically needs to be moved into the resulting stock position. and then the option is not going to be reported on your taxes. So it's zeroed out in essence. TradeLog can help automate that whole process as well. If I click on the exercise assign button, first it's going to search for anything that we think looks like it was an exercised or signed option. So you see, for example, we have 100 shares SPCE. Well, there's the option that has the same strike price as the price for those 100 shares, and the expiration date is within the same window. So based on TradeLog's intelligence, it looks like this was an exercised option. Of course, you have to confirm that. Sometimes there's scenarios where the software can't be sure, but we put up there and show you here's the trades, and we ask you to confirm it. I'm going to go down here and check the box to automatically exercise as many as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and then exercise, and what it's going to do is it went through all of the trades that TradeLog found, and it went ahead and made the adjustments. And you see it's zeroed out the option, created an exercised label on there, and then it changed the price of the stock to now include that option premium. So that's been accounted for. I can click yes and save the records. And now I can go back up to my checklist and I can mark those two things as done, click OK. So next up is to verify year-end open positions. This is where the December 2020 broker statement is needed. So I'm going to go ahead and open that December 2020 broker statement. And what I'm going to do is look at that statement, just like we did for the 2019, which I'm actually going to close out because we don't need it. I'm going to look to see that my broker show anything open or holdings as of December 31st, 2020. Now, I already know because this trader stopped trading in this account. So there's nothing here. All it is the activity, for the month of December. There are no holdings or portfolio summary. So now I just need to make sure that TradeLog matches. Now, if your broker did list positions that were open as of December 31st, you could take note of those. And then you want to make sure that the same positions are showing open in TradeLog. This is an important step in just confirming that TradeLog's imported everything correctly. It's matching up with your broker, and that any adjustments have been accounted for. So when I click on the open positions button, what it's going to do is it's going to pull up the list of any positions open. And in this case, there are none. So that's exactly what my statement shows. There's nothing open at the end of the year in this account. So that works. If I had positions, they'd be listed here. I could then actually print that list out, which is personally what I like to do, or you can copy it and paste it like in Excel or Word or something. And then I would take that and verify each of those positions match up with my statement. And that's a way of confirming the accuracy of your trade history and TradeLog. So we can mark that step as done. But now the second verification that we do in TradeLog is to reconcile with your 1099. Now, keep in mind, usually the whole reason you're using TradeLog is because you can't use your 1099. You recognize that maybe your situation, the 1099 doesn't make all the tax adjustments you need, or many of you have perhaps discovered that your 1099 has errors or is doing things in a way that's not in your favor, particularly with wash sales. So TradeLog is not trying to match your 1099 because we are creating, your tax reporting based on the IRS rules for taxpayers, not for brokers. That's a whole nother discussion we can have about the difference with 1099. So I say that for you to keep in mind when you get to this step. Sometimes we have TradeLog users that are so focused on getting TradeLog to match the 1099. And we say, well, why are you even using TradeLog then? Why not just use your 1099? The purpose of the reconciliation is to make sure that there's no glaring problems. If there's a big difference between the proceeds in your 1099 and the proceeds in TradeLog, that may indicate that something's missing in your trade history. And it's kind of a red flag to just check everything off. But it may be that it doesn't reconcile, as I'm going to show you in just a moment. So let's go to this step. I'm going to run the reconciliation report. And TradeLog has selected some of these 1099B details based on the broker. So in this case, we know that for Tastyworks, how they report options and also short options, we can account for that. What I need to enter here is a number, which is the gross proceeds from my 1099B. So I'm going to switch back over to the 1099B. Don't need this December statement anymore. And if I go to the top of this report, now every 1099 is a little bit different. A lot of them do put it at the top, but some brokers, they'll put a total at the bottom. Most of the brokers now do seem to give you a total or a summary section somewhere. Some of the brokers don't. They have different sections to the 1099, and you have to go through and total up each section. You see here, they list 5 different sections. You have short-term, covered, non-covered, long-term covered, non-covered, and then you have an undetermined section. So in this case, there are proceeds that are being reported in 2 sections for short-term, and they give the total. What you need for TradeLog is this grand total. Now, if they had long-term, I'd need to add the total short-term and the total long-term together. You need the total of all the proceeds being reported on your 1099B. So I'm going to enter that number in here. It's $19,245,916.02. Now, what TradeLog is going to do when I click run this reconciliation report, we're going to total up the proceeds that TradeLog is reporting that would, in theory, match up with the 1099. We try to use the rules that we know for 1099 to say, hey, does TradeLog have the same trade history as your 1099B? When I run this, you'll see we generate a report, and it shows what TradeLog is going to report on the 8949 for short-term, long-term. We're actually subtracting out an amount here of 98,000. This has to do with the way some brokers report short option sales in this case, where instead of putting the actual proceeds, they put the gain and loss. The IRS allows it, but it's kind of nonsensical. So TradeLog adjusts for that. We know that, okay, we've got to account for that difference. And then we come up with the TradeLog adjusted sales total. And then there's that number I entered for my 1099B. So you notice TradeLog is actually reporting $8,752.30 more in proceeds or sales than the 1099 does. Now, we don't have the time to go into all the details, but I know because I've looked at the trade history, I know all the trade history is accurate. And in this case, the difference is because the broker is actually missing trades. I'll show you just maybe 1 or 2 examples. Let's see, if I open back up to TradeLog, I need to close this. Let's take, for example, I'm going to look up these positions on snow. So you notice I've got a couple of options for snow options contracts. One of these is a 30 October 2020 300 call. So the proceeds for that are actually $2,248.57. Now, if I go back to my 1099 and I do a search for this particular call, I'll put in the way the broker reports it. There's nothing. I've scoured, I've searched, but the broker, for some reason, isn't even reporting that particular contract. There's a total of 5 option contracts, all with expiration dates at the end of October, that for some reason are not being reported on the 1099B in this case. And so that's why there's a difference. And they total up to just within like $10, $20 of that total number we saw in the difference. So the important thing when it comes to the reconciliation is not to get that number to 0, because sometimes you just aren't going to get the difference to 0. But the important thing is making sure if there is a difference, that it's not either you can explain it, you understand maybe where the difference is coming from, or it's small enough. For example, it's not uncommon to have maybe several hundred or even several $1,000s of difference that comes just from rounding differences when you have thousands and thousands of trades. We have some customers who have hundreds of thousands of trades over the course of a year, and just with rounding differences it can add up something significant. So if you're not sure, if you have a difference with your 1099 reconciliation and you're not sure, we do have some resources to help with that. You can go to this particular link, our Form 1099-B page on our website, which kind of gives you some of the reasons why there might be a difference and can guide you through the process. Also, you can contact our support team. If you're wondering, is there something I'm missing or something glaring, and we can maybe point you in the right direction with it. I'm going to take a moment now to talk about that. If you have a problem that comes up or something frustrates you, remember I mentioned earlier, the easiest way to ask to submit a support request is right in the software. Up in the top corner, when I have my file open, there's a Get Support button. And when I click on that Get Support button, it actually generates a support request. It'll put your name and your email address that you have registered with your software, and it's going to attach your TradeLog data file and your import folder, which we do recommend. Now, you can also put on other attachments. For example, if your 1099-B is not reconciling, you can attach your 1099-B. In fact, we encourage you to do that because we can't tell much without looking and comparing your 1099-B. And a lot of times, it may just be that you missed something when you were totaling up numbers on the 1099, or there may be something glaringly obvious that we see on the 1099. So you can attach that, put a description of the problem that you're having, click send, and that'll send all of that information to our support team. They can then look at that support ticket. They can go through the data if you sent your 1099 and get a better picture of it and reply to you by email with the help that you need. Sometimes they may just be able to point you in the right direction to something that we have on our support center as well. So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to check off that I reconciled the 1099-B. Click OK. I finished the checklist for this particular account. But remember, I mentioned that this trader, for January 2021, they started using TD Ameritrade. So I do need to put that data in here because there are wash sales that resulted that Tastyworks had no idea about, which is another reason why the 1099 wouldn't be correct, because they don't know what was traded in the TD Ameritrade account. So what I'm going to do is go up here and click on Add, the Add button for the accounts, or you can go to the Account menu. And I'm going to just start typing and put in TD Ameritrade. And once again, you can choose your default import method. Broker Connect is available. I'm going to use the downloaded file. And same cash basis accounting, I'll click OK. Now, because this trader started in January 2021, there's no baseline positions. So I can actually click the Exit button and skip the baseline position wizard and go straight to importing my trade history. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select the trade history that I already downloaded for January 2021. Much more trade activity in January for this particular account. So it takes a moment. We have 5,800 records, 2 were canceled. So I'm going to save that. Now, again, there's a negative share error that pops up. So I need to take a look at this. I'm going to just go to the Tesla trade here and double click on that since it's just one. And what I'm noticing here, a lot of intraday trading, and with TD Ameritrade, they don't report a timestamp. So sometimes their trades are reported out of order. And that's what appears to be happening here because I have a sell position, but there's other buys on the same day. So once again, TradeLog has some nice functions to help with this. I'm just going to exit out of the error, go to all trades, and I'm going to go to the edit menu and choose the option fix trades out of order. And what that's going to do is it's going to basically everything within the same time, since there's no timestamp, everything that's on the same day, we're just going to put all the buys before the sells. And a lot of times that resolves those negative shares. So I click yes, let's see what it does. No more negative share error, all fixed. So now I've got my January trade history imported for TD Ameritrade. I am going to need to go up and complete the checklist. There are no options to be expired or exercised, so that's already been checked for me. The year-end open positions doesn't apply because I just started this in the next year, so I can just go ahead and check that off. The Reconcile 1099B, what I'll have to do is, again, since I don't have 2020 data, I'm just going to go up here and select no 1099B for this TD Ameritrade account for 2020. Click OK. And now I can go back and that's checked off. So now I'm ready to finish off my tax reports. I've got all my trade history imported. Everything has been, all the errors are taken care of. Everything's been balanced and verified. Before I do the next step of ending the tax year, I do want to preview my reporting, and this is a best practice I recommend. So you can look at reports for your individual accounts. If you want to see how you did with that, you can go up to the reports menu and there's a number of reports. But of course, for tax purposes, you need to run your tax reporting for all of your accounts. And that way TradeLog can adjust any wash sales across accounts. That's probably one of the reasons you might be looking at TradeLog, is you may have multiple brokerage accounts and the IRS wants you to adjust those wash sales across accounts. So I'm going to go to the All Accounts tab. There's all my trade history visible. A few of the key reports that we're going to need for tax purposes is the 8949. The gains and losses report is usually not needed anymore. Some states might require that, but the gain and loss report gives you the same information as the 8949, just in an easier to read format and a little more condensed. So I'll show you the difference of that later. Now, I also have Section 1256 contracts. So that involves Form 6781. So there's a report for that as well. So I'm going to just run the 8949 because that's the big one that we're usually looking for. And when I run that, I need to click Run Report. And it's just telling me that I haven't ended the tax year, so it's going to be a draft, and that's okay because I just want to preview this. So now we can preview the report. Now I can go through, I have 84 pages. You notice it's an IRS ready report. If you do put in your social security number or EIN, you can choose to have that printed on here. I'm going to go to the end, to the summary page. We put a summary page here, which you can use to help fill out your Schedule D. Or if you're filing electronically, it'll give you the numbers that you'll need to enter. So this gives me my summary. So you see I have short-term gains and losses for one section here, which is section 1B, and that's the only thing that it's reporting. Now, one thing that I did notice, if I go back to the 1099, remember we saw here the broker reported in two sections. They have covered and non-covered. So if I go to that non-covered section, let's see if I can get to that. Here we go. I can see that it's UVXY. For whatever reason, the broker is saying these were non-covered, so they reported on a separate section. Now, a lot of times it doesn't make a big difference. The IRS, at the end of the day, they're looking at the bottom lines. But if I want my 8949 to match up well with the 1099, I can actually go in, because right now TradeLog's not putting that. Should be listed here under section 2 with box B checked. But we don't have that. But I can fix that. And this is why I like to preview my reports, because once you've finished the tax year, you can't make these edits. So I'm going to go in and do find ticker, and I'm going to put UVXY, and I can pull up those trades, and there's those two positions. And what I can do is select these trades, and I'm going to right click and choose change 8949 code. And I'm going to put these as code B. And that's going to assign those to that section of the 8949 that has code B. So I'm going to click yes, that I want to do that, and I'm going to save my records. So now if I go back and I run that 8949 again, and we go to that summary page, now you see we've actually broken out the two sections, and that proceeds actually matches up almost perfectly. And if I pull my 1099 over, you can see there's that $42 gain and loss, same there. So it looks good. Now, keep in mind, as a caution, some people start comparing, well, why is it that the gain and loss on my 8949 is different than the gain and loss my broker has on the 1099B? Well, that's why you're probably using TradeLog, because your broker hasn't adjusted for everything. So in this case, if I was to go back up to the summary, the broker here has a net gain of $108,000. TradeLog has a net gain of just over $91,000. So decent sized difference there. Why is it? Probably because of wash sale reporting is one of the factors. Also, remember, we found there were trades that the broker didn't put on the 1099. The TradeLog does have in the trade history. So there are going to be differences usually. And most of our customers find that TradeLog's reporting is actually more in their favor because of how we apply the wash sale rules. We always try to do the wash sale adjustments in the way that's going to get you the best result that we can by still following the law. So I've just confirmed that my 8949, I've got things separated the way I want. The numbers actually look good. I know that this actually lines up more with the actual profit or gain that this trader had. So I'm happy with this report. I also have the futures contracts, section 1256 contracts. Now these aren't actual futures, but they're SPX weekly options. So it's a broad-based index option, which qualifies for section 1256 treatment, just like futures. So when you run that report in TradeLog, what it's going to do is it's going to total up all of those. And at the end of the report, it gives you the two numbers that you'll need to put on IRS form 6781. You'll need the total of your losses and the total of your gains. And then we have the detail there. So those are the two main tax reports that are going to be needed. Now, some people also want to know, well, how are wash sales affecting me? This is one of the beauties of TradeLog, is I can go up and run under reports. I can run the wash sale details report and actually see how wash sales impacted my tax year. So there were no wash sales attached to year-end open positions because I didn't have anything open at year-end. But you see, there were some wash sales that were triggered by trades for Airbnb in January. And so I had $535 in losses that were deferred from 2020 into 2021 because of those January trades, which actually happened in another account. So this is a wash sale that the broker would not have reported on the 1099B either, which is again why TradeLog needs to be used to do this. So this gives that detail, and then I can go to the next page and I can see all the Airbnb trades that were involved. And as I scroll down, I can start to see, oh, here's where the losses were, and this is where trades those losses were attached to. So you can see all of that detail. This doesn't go to the IRS. It's just a report that you can use for your own purposes. But now let's finish up. We're at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap up here in just the next few minutes. We've imported all of our trade history. We've completed all the steps we need to finalize our tax year. I previewed the reports. They look good. So now what I'm going to do is go up and run in tax year. So I go to the file menu and I'm going to choose in tax year, create next tax year data file. Now, this is an important step that you have to do to create finalized tax reporting in TradeLog. It'll remove the draft watermark and create a final report. Now, you cannot do this with the free trial version of TradeLog. You do have to have an actual subscription to the software in order to do this. But what's going to happen is when I run in tax year, it's just going to ask again, do I want to enter my social security number? Because you can't make changes after you run in tax year. You can, but you have to undo the in tax year function. Yes, I want to continue. I'm going to use one of my professional codes here, and it's confirming that I've completed everything I need to do. So now it's going to match up all the trades, and now it's locked for editing. So now if I right click on trades, I can't I can't edit anything anymore. All the editing's locked, and that's to protect you from accidentally changing things in your file. So now I can go up and run my tax reports. For example, the 8949, I can run that, and it's going to create, there's no draft watermark. This is a finalized report. I can use this. I can send it to my CPA. I can create a PDF if I'm going to e-file, print it out, whatever method you want to file. But the other thing that TradeLog did that I want to show you is if I go to the file menu, now there's a 2021 file that's been created. So if I open that 2021 file, what you're going to see is TradeLog has carried over anything that was open at the end of 2020 into 2021. Now, I didn't have anything open, but it did carry over the 2021 data that I imported. And also, it's going to have on here these W records that are added. These are wash sale deferrals that we saw on that list that are attached to positions in January. So TradeLog's keeping track of all that information so that we know the wash sales that were attached, and those will be accounted for. If I close out those positions in 2021, it's going to be factored in. So that file is created. No more having to manually enter baseline positions. You'll just use this file for your 2021 use with TradeLog. So if I go back over to the 2020 file, now everything's there ready. I can run all the reports that I need. There's also additional reports that you can check out to look at your some of your performance charts, things like that, that we don't have time to go into, but all of that's ready for tax filing. Now, we went through the whole process. You may have some questions. Well, which tax reports do I need, or how do I file my taxes? If you're going to e-file, for example. And again, this is where our guide to using TradeLog each year comes in handy, because under step 8, step 7 and 8 talk about how to generate your reports. Step 8 even tells you how to file. If you're going to do some e-filing, we recommend Form 8453 as an easy method to use. You can do that with both Tax Act and TurboTax. If I click this, you can see we have a number of things about how you can use TradeLog reporting. Of course, if you have a CPA, you can just send them the PDF and they can take it from there. But all of that's there to help you out. All right, so there we did it. We used TradeLog to generate our 2020 trader tax reporting. Just a few things to finish up, some questions about with the TradeLog. Of course, I've showed you the support center. And again, just to stress, if you have problems and you're using TradeLog, just use that Get Support button to submit a support request with your data file. It's the best way to get support. Then we can actually see the problem you're having or the error, and we can provide you the instructions you really need. Now, we've seen some questions about the different subscriptions and how that works. So as I mentioned, you can use a TradeLog free trial if you have that to import all your trade history, to get all the way up to the point of you can preview your reports, your tax reports. You just won't be able to finalize. So you'll need to purchase a subscription. Which subscription level do you need? It's based on the number of records. So 200, 600, 1500. And if it's more than 1500, we have the TradeLog Unlimited. If you're not sure, we get that question, well, what if I'm not sure how many trade records I have? We recommend just buying a little bit lower level, and you can always upgrade through the year, and you just pay the difference in cost. So if you got TradeLog 1500 and then you realize, oh, I need TradeLog Unlimited, then you just pay $130 to upgrade, which is the difference in the cost, and that gets you what you need. So that way you don't have to overspend. You can upgrade anytime through the year. And of course, TradeLog works on a 1-year subscription, and with that subscription, it allows you to use the software for 1 tax year reporting. Most people don't need to buy anything extra, but if you do have like multiple accounts, maybe you're also doing some reporting for another family member, you can purchase an additional tax file. We explain that here. That's a $75 fee that you can add on another tax report, in essence, or tax file that you're going to use a TradeLog for. And if you have questions about some of the particular things like wash sales, some of the different reports, check out the resources section on our website, because we have a comprehensive section on 8949 of course, the wash sale rule, even understanding the 1099B and the reconciliation. And you can also check out the webinar section, and we've got some recorded events from the past, and we'll also post up any upcoming events as well. So I think that finishes. I think we've answered most of the questions. So one question about if you purchase TradeLog to complete 2020, so you can purchase, if you purchase TradeLog now, you complete 2020, you'll still be able to use the software to import all your trade history for the next year. And then when you renew next year around the same time, you'll be ready to file taxes for your 2021, and you'll have your trade history. Now, if you are electing mark to market, we didn't talk a whole lot about that today with mark to market. But if you do elect mark to market this year, you will need to make sure that you purchase either the TradeLog 1500 or TradeLog Unlimited. And one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to take your 2021 file and you're going to change your accounting method to mark. And you can reach out to our support team and they can give you instructions on how to do that. But you do need one of those versions in order to support the mark to market accounting. And you'd probably need that anyways, because if you have less than, if you've had 600 or less trades, you probably don't qualify for mark to market accounting. So, all right, very good. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, hanging around a little after 5 here. Hope you have a great day. And again, if you have any questions, any more questions come up, feel free to contact us, our support team, support@tradelogsoftware.com. Or send a support request if you're using the software, and our team is there to help you out and answer any specific questions you have. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.